to Born for This Stories, where we speak the truths no one told us, so you don't have to carry this alone. I'm Dr. Johanna. Welcome back for Born for This Stories. We also have Peter, and we have a very special guest, Kylie, who's joining us today to talk about her story with her son's diagnosis. So I'm going to let Kylie jump in and introduce her family.
My name is Kylie, and my husband Philip and I have a 2.5, although he's convinced he's 3 already.
Yes.
Son Aiden, and we are in South Carolina. We live in a super small town, so we have plenty of room for him to run and be that crazy all-boy country boy.
Love it.
All the dirt, all the bugs, all the things.
Yes.
And so he was actually born prematurely. So we are very thankful that he's doing all of the things. Even on the crazy days, we're happy to have him and happy to have him doing everything that he needs to. But we're pretty simple. We're quiet.
Yeah.
We just pour, like a lot of parents, just pour everything you can into your kids and hope for the best.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So, Aiden was born early.
Yes.
Okay.
He was born at 31 weeks.
Okay.
I think 31 and 4 days, maybe. I think that's as far as we made it.
Yeah.
I had preeclampsia and wasn't doing too well. He was chilling.
Yeah.
He was fine.
Yeah.
Naturally.
Sure.
He was always measuring smaller, so we never made it to the true IUGR, the growth restriction diagnosis. But we can speculate that he had it because he was born at only 2 pounds, 15 ounces, which is small for a 31-weeker.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 pounds.
That was exciting.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. My heart goes out to you.
Thank you.
Holding such a little baby. So if you don't mind, just jumping in and getting into the nitty gritty and sharing, what was your experience like with that? When did you find out your son's diagnosis? Did you know prior? Did you not find out till he was born? Give us it all.
Yeah. So we, at the time, did not know until he was born. He has hypospadias and a chordee. And sometimes you can see hypospadias on ultrasound from what I've been told, but it would be a pretty severe case where it's actually, I guess, considered more of the ambiguous genitalia side. He had a true formed penis, so they couldn't see it on ultrasound.
Yeah.
But now thinking back, they had a very hard time determining gender for him. So looking back at things, the doctor's like, yeah, duh. He had hypospadias then. This is nothing new technically, but it's new to us.
Right.
So when he was diagnosed, I was actually I was still on the magnesium drip from having preeclampsia. So I was still out of it, not feeling too hot. My husband, who is the sweetest man in the world, he was really running the show with giving me updates and, baby's okay, because I haven't even seen him yet. I had only seen a picture with all the things hooked up.
Yes.
So I was just hoping to hear, hey, he's alive.
Right.
And that's the news we were getting, and he was doing well, all things considering, he was stable. And so I'm sitting there, kind of in and out, not thinking too clearly, but I'm like, all right, he's here, I'm here, husband's here, we're good. We're okay. We'll take what we need to, as the days come, but the initial reports were good. Then within a couple of hours, we had a neonatologist come in and talk with us. And this is again before I even saw the baby, and came in kind of panicked and just we need to talk now. And so, of course, my husband and I were like, okay, how did we get from he's cool and we're chilling and we're stable to we need to talk right now? And we assumed the worst, right? Horrible complications. And so, not that it's not a terrible complication, but all things considered, no offense, it's a penis.
Right.
But so she came in kind of raising all of the alarms. And originally didn't call it hypospadias. She led with ambiguous genitalia, which is a technical diagnosis of the condition. But led with the more that there will be a genetic component and there will be problems, which we knew nothing about it, right? So we're like, holy crap. Now we're looking at genetic issues. They want to run all this testing. He may have to be transferred to now a level 4 NICU instead of a level 3. And, my knowledge of NICUs is level 4 is, we're doing surgeries. It's intense. So we were shell shocked, and we were told and by a nurse that they weren't, after the doctor had left and we're sitting there processing, because she did give us a minute to kind of just say, holy moly, what do we do with this information? The nurse said, in certain other terms, and again, I was in and out, but the way I took it was, well, I guess you'll have to decide, meaning we'll have to decide the gender. And I was, we were taken back because we're thinking we're having a boy, and either way is fine. Either way is fine. But this whole time, boy, and then now you have someone just randomly throwing this in. So of course we're Googling like crazy. I'm still really not thinking clearly. My husband's learning as much as he can, but he is not a medically inclined person, and he will be the first person to tell you that. So we called my mom in, and we're like, someone figure out what's going on. So he's at the NICU. He's like, what's going on with our baby? Like, I thought everything was good. My mom's in here researching. And, things sound serious when you turn to Dr. Google. And that's the only information that we had, really, because I wasn't able to get up to the NICU yet. They were not letting me get out of bed. And so we were just going through my husband and what nurses were able to come into the mother baby, I guess, section I was in to tell us. And so it was a lot of unknowns those first 2 days. And that the neonatologist was very doom and gloom. One of them. One was just super, you're going to have issues, you're going to have this, you're going to have that. So we're preparing for all of those things. I'm finally let out of bed, and then we see a new neonatologist, and he's like, he's got hypospadias. Okay.
Oh my God.
He's peeing. We're having wet diapers, so things are working. It's just the urethral hole is not where it should be, and he has a curvature. Okay. To me, that's pretty simple. That's fixable. But so we had this really hard time balancing how alarmed should we be, because we have one doctor raising all of the flags that we're being transferred. She even had a PICC line put in so we could be transferred. And then we have a whole other neonatologist who's saying, we've got to consult urology and we've got to look into things, but it's nothing that we would address right now anyway. He's functioning, he's urinating, kidneys are good. All of this is after the fact. We're just trying to get him home. And so we're doing this dance day to day as shift changes of, your baby's not doing well, but really he is. It's just this hyperfixation. So it's really
one extreme to the other. From one extreme to the other.
Yeah. And so that was hard to navigate in the beginning because, again, we had no idea. I've never heard of this condition. Apparently it's very common now that I know that. But we had no idea. We had no education. And the education that we were given was 2 totally different spectrums day to day. So we chose as a family that we're just sticking with, is he breathing? Is he eating? Is he, growing? Are we meeting those things? And luckily we were. We had a pretty, boring NICU experience for a lot of people. Of course, it's traumatic, but it's pretty boring, all things considering. And then we just took it, day by day with the hypospadias, but genetic testing came back, no genetic conditions, so we're like, okay, check that off. Then they did, I guess, because it's a midline defect. So then there's risks of heart defects and all other things. Nothing showing up. So we're like, okay, check that box off. So truly, he just had a birth defect involving his penis, and that's it. So there was a lot up front of this, oh my gosh, big things are going to happen, all of these problems, and education on that side of things.
Yeah.
But then when all of this genetic testing and everything came back normal, we really weren't told what to expect next.
Yeah.
And so that was a weird place to navigate, because you're just in fight or flight. And then it's like, all right, he's good.
Yeah.
You'll follow up with your urologist in 6 weeks and see what they say. And so that was it. That's how it was left.
Oh gosh, that was like a roller coaster of a stay for you guys.
It was.
Well, and a beginning story for you all.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine having two providers on two different ends of the spectrum, but you're having to work with both of them and hearing one extreme to the other.
Mm-hmm.
Because then I just think in my mind, like, what if you were on the other side and then this other one's downplaying it, for lack of better terms, but then you were on the other side. And I mean, thankfully you were on, the more simplistic side, of course, but wow, I mean, that's just so extreme.
Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm a worrier. I'm sure as a mom, it gets worse with kids.
Yes.
You just worry.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking the same thing you're thinking. I'm going, okay, the neonatologist that is saying all the alarms, she's right. Like, she's got to be right, because why else are we doing all this testing? And so we're not really dismissing, but almost being like, okay, that's best case scenario that this is downplayed, but we have to act like it's not.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately, our little guy had to go through a lot of testing, a lot of just not super invasive procedures, but still things that you don't want to do to a 3-day-old baby.
Right.
But just, we did all the things because we didn't know what else to do.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And then definitely, like, I think one of the harder parts that, like, in most cases, like, hypospadias is not picked up on ultrasound. So you have no idea until your son is here, and then you have no information. Like, if you've never been through this before, you have no information besides what that medical provider is telling you. So, and then the second you can get your phone, I think everyone goes, okay, Google, blah, 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 let's see all the things. And I'm sure, just like you experience, it's like from one swing to another, from extreme, they're going to have a genetic condition, to they're not. And, I mean, all this stuff. So it's just such a mental space to,
it is
confusion to be in, and so worrisome and stressful.
It's an interesting time, but we made it through. And, all things considering, he's okay.
Yes, for sure.
Have we had a lot going on since with follow-up with urology? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But again, at the end of the day, he's breathing, he's growing, he's doing all the things. So we're thankful.
What has your journey been like since they released you and they say follow up with the pediatric urologist in 6 weeks? Then what happened?
So that's where, again, just education is just lacking for parents.
Yes.
So we were referred from NICU to an endocrinologist and a pediatric urologist. And the endocrinologist was lovely, reviewed all of the testing, all of the things. And she's like, yeah, it's just hypospadias. We'll do some testosterone shots because that helps with growth, giving more skin to then play with when we get to surgery time. So we did shots. We were given the option to have to take him every month back to the clinic to have it, or I could do them at home. So I just chose to do them at home since I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And so we did our testosterone shots. We had the growth that we needed. So we were done with endocrinology. So check that off the list.
Yeah.
Followed up with cardiology, followed up with all the specialties, and just kind of slowly checked off, okay, he's good here, we're good there, we're good there. And then we were still lingering with urology. So with hypospadias, they don't like to intervene until at least 6 months of age to give the baby time to develop, time to grow, see if there's any additional holes popping up. Since he had penoscrotal hypospadias, his was pretty low, considering where the hole could be placed. So it was unlikely that he would have another one pop up because that's already our starting point. We're down at the bottom.
Right.
And so the initial urologist, we put our full trust in him. He came highly recommended, very nonchalant, kind of like the neonatologist that was like, yeah, it's fixable, we'll handle it, which really put us at ease, thinking, okay, it's a surgery. We can get through a surgery.
Right.
And so we had the plan set up that I believe at 8 months was when we scheduled to have his hypospadias corrected. In the meantime, he ended up having a bilateral inguinal hernia. So we had to go back into the hospital for a couple days, get that fixed. Well, actually, excuse me, we were scheduled at 6 months, had the hernia, pushed it to 8 months, all kind of just shifted timeline to give him time to heal.
Sure.
It didn't complicate anything, but it's just another thing that we were like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
Another penis problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we had that taken care of. And the way that the urologist explained this to us was very simplified now that I know what we're dealing with.
Yep.
He explained it as we go in, we pretty much create a new urethra, which is factual, and then we reshape the penis to be a normal looking penis. Because he's young, you won't notice, the scars will be fine, all the great things that once we're done, we're done. We were told that there's a possibility that it would be a 2-stage repair, but it was unlikely because of where Aiden's hypospadias was. I guess the type of skin that they were seeing, it wasn't scarred. So he didn't think that it would be scarred internally, which is why he felt confident doing a 1-stage repair. Hindsight now, it never should have been a 1-stage repair ever with penis scrotal hypospadias. That is like not recommended anywhere. But we didn't know that. And he was confident. The endocrinologist was confident in him. The NICU team was confident in him. So we went with it. We accepted surgery with him. Surgery went well overall. He had one urethral opening at the end. Healing is a 0 out of 10 with an 8-month-old baby, and doing diaper changes and all of that. That is horrible. Would not wish that on my worst enemy. To manage a catheter with an 8-month-old baby. It's horrible.
Not fun.
But things were okay. He was healing good. Surgery was a success, all of the things. Then a couple months later, we noticed that he had a fistula. So he was having urine coming out of a hole that was about mid-shaft instead of the hole that was created on the tip of the penis. And so we knew it was an option that could happen. It is a very common complication of hypospadias surgery. However, it's much more common in single-stage repairs. You're essentially guaranteed from the research that I've done in his type of hypospadias, you will have a fistula if you do a 1-stage repair. The reason being is you're elongating such a long tube with such fragile tissue. That pressure that boys exert to pee just compounds that tissue, and we have a leak. So we went back to the original surgeon, and he was lovely. Gave us all the statistics on how he doesn't usually see fistulas, which now we know that that's not factual. And this whole time we're doing research, we're looking into things now more so because, now we have a surgical complication. At the time, our pediatrician was still telling us to be very conservative with having Aiden out and about, no daycare, all of the things, just because he was a preemie and trying to keep him safe from germs, exposures, all of that. So we didn't feel at the time that we had the option to go pursue doctors all across the country. And we just weren't in a place that we could travel with him, and we felt comfortable. So we got a second opinion locally. Doctor kind of said the same thing, that, it's a fistula, it happens. It shouldn't be an extensive fix because everything going up to that point should be okay. So everything that was rebuilt up to the fistula should be working because it didn't drop all the way down to his original place where he was urinating from. So we said, okay. And we did the second surgery to have the repair of the fistula. Well, in that surgery is where this surgeon discovered that the initial repair just wasn't healing well internally.
Yeah.
And we still didn't get a clear picture on exactly what that meant. But I'm assuming that the piece that was tubularized just wasn't closing like it should. And so there was actually another fistula forming. So he had to redo the entire initial surgery.
Oh my gosh.
At that point is when he should have, in theory, said, okay, this needs to be a 2-stage. Like, we've had a complication. It's not healing well. We need to back up and we would have been fine with that. So he did fix the fistula, retubularized another piece of skin from the foreskin, essentially as a graft, but technically no, since it's the same area.
Yeah.
And, surgery went well. He being fine, healing good, another lovely healing experience after. But we got through it. He's doing well. Can I
ask, like, so you're going through this and we're going through the second surgery and we see the internal tissues not healing properly. Did they recommend any hyperbaric treatment or anything to support the proper regrowth of that tissue?
Nothing. And then that's where and we're in surgery at this point, right? So I'm like, so I'm asking, what do we do to make sure this doesn't happen? We're not being given any extra wound care protocols, no suggestive support like hyperbaric chamber, nothing. It's it was explained to us like this was more of like a fluke situation. Mm-hmm. It just happened. And so we were like, all right, but we're in the middle of surgery. So, so what are we going to do?
Right.
So he's healing great, peeing out of one hole, we're thinking things are good.
Yeah.
But then over the last year from that surgery, I think we're about 1.5 years, almost 2 years out from that one. We start noticing more curvature, and it almost, for lack of a better way to explain it, it's like a tongue tie. It looks like. Like we're just tacked down somewhere. And then I start noticing that his urine stream is just thinner because now we're potty training and you have boys, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
They'll pee on anything. So we're just kind of like, that doesn't look normal.
Yeah.
And so we consult with this urologist again, just because he's local, and we're like, we want to make sure like he's not going to stop urinating because it's getting more and more narrow.
Right.
The urologist, agrees that the stream looks narrow. I sent him a video that there is curvature, all the things. And then now I'm researching everything to death. Like that's like the nightly activity is researching hypospadias.
Yes.
And so at this follow-up appointment, I'm asking a lot of targeted questions on technique and why did we not do a 2 or 3 stage repair, all the things. And he's answering the questions, but starting to get a little defensive. So now all the red flags are up. We were losing confidence, but now I'm like, okay, we need to get out of this room. You shouldn't be getting defensive over a parent just saying, hey, I want to learn about my son's condition and how we can help them. So we left that, we left that appointment, talking with family, doing more research, just kind of sitting on things for a little bit, because now I don't want to jump into another surgery. We know he needs it. This doctor, the original surgeon recommended, which didn't sound good to me. That surgeon had said that they could just fix it. It was just skin tethering, which didn't sound right to me. That if it's skin tethering, but the urethra's thinning, how is it not internal?
Right.
So that was odd. So then we just chose to just sit for a minute. Let's do some research. Let's figure out what our next move is. Who's the guy? Like who's the top penis surgeon? Who is it? So we got a list of 3 doctors throughout the country, just through research, talking with support groups online, and got 3 different opinions on the next stages, all of which acknowledged that the initial surgery should not have happened the way that it did. Even the surgeon that trained the surgeon that we had the surgery with said, I wouldn't have used that procedure, So that was hard to hear.
Sure.
That the guy who even trained our surgeon was like, why the heck did he do that? And so the consensus was that we're needing to start from scratch now at this point.
Oh, wow.
And start over, because no surgeon can guarantee that the work that has now been done will not fail in the future because it has failed.
Yeah.
We have proof that it's failed. So we consulted with all these doctors. We have all these notes and drawings and how their techniques just differ ever so slightly.
Yeah.
And through all the research, I'm learning how that can truly impact healing, function into adulthood, all of the things, how just one different type of cut or one different type of graft really does have an impact.
Yeah.
So we've been mulling over all of the options, again, talking with anybody that we can talk to just to try to get information, and have settled on a surgeon out of state. And we will be going there to have now a 2, probably 3-stage repair done over the next 18 months to 2 years.
Yeah.
So we're scheduled in December. We're hoping to get that moved up with a cancellation because I am due in February. So that is not ideal.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're on the right track now. These surgeons were not put off by my questioning, which is a good sign.
Yeah.
They want you to be educated. They want you to know these things.
Yes.
And so we're scheduled, we're ready to go. We're going full steam ahead, and feel much more comfortable with the plan that was chosen because it is so much more conservative and it just makes sense. The way that it was explained, the way it was drawn out. This doctor let me watch videos of his surgeries that he uses for training for other surgeons because I want to know what you're doing to my kid. At this point, I trust nobody.
Yeah, for sure.
And this is now, now we're going to be almost 5 years old by the time this is fixed. Like, we've got to do this. And so I actually then went back to our original surgeon and let him know of all of the things that we have since discovered. And that was an interesting conversation, to say the least.
How did that get received?
It was better than you'd think. He was actually receptive to learning about, what was wrong. Of course, he stuck with his guns on, I made no mistakes. And that's fine. And we're not looking to do anything.
I get it.
It's a non-issue. But he was very adamant that he did everything right. He sticks by the decision. And I, the person I am, I did not let up on the fact that you're wrong. Because now I'm armed. I've got all this information. I've got 5 different opinions at this point saying you're wrong, like you're wrong. So my husband laughs that he probably closed down that day and was like, I'm not seeing any more patients because it's just, we had a little bit of a battle. He even called back the next day to then try to educate me and re-explain things to me. And that, that wasn't going anywhere. He did at the end offer that if we needed a local urologist after everything, that we could come back. And I was, not receptive to that.
Thanks, but no thanks.
But I do give him credit for at least calling and having the discussion. He could have ignored my letter on my chart that I had sent initially. He could have ignored everything. So I do respect that he at least did call and walk through why he made the decisions that he did. They were wrong, but I do give some credit there. That he at least did have a conversation.
For sure. And I do want to highlight this because I know a lot of parents, especially Hypospadias parents, have been listening to the podcast and will continue to, that one of the things that we try to scream from the rooftops is to get multiple opinions, just not from your local urologist. Because in our area, even though we're super populated, we had one option. And we knew from the second, because he spent 30 seconds with us, and was like, it's not a big deal. And our son had the same type of hypospadias as your son did. We knew from the second, no, absolutely not. You're not operating. You're so dismissive. I'm not giving us any information that I'm going to go seek out other opinions.
Good for you.
And that, I think, is if we can provide any information out of anything, is just be okay as a parent seeking out other opinions before deciding.
Yes, 1,000%.
Even if they sound confident.
2020. Right.
Yes.
Exactly. I think that parents one, you're so shell shocked with the diagnosis because you don't know.
Yes.
Going into it, there's no way to prepare. And then it's in our case, and this is similar to other parents I've spoken to, all the alarms are raised, and then it's like, okay, things are okay. So you kind of relax.
Yeah.
Not, not really, but you relax enough.
Yeah.
That you're okay with the treatment plan, but there's always something in the back of your head being like, I don't know, but everybody's saying this is okay.
Right.
Because they don't know either, but you don't know that they don't know.
And
it's tough.
Downplay the amount of work and effort that goes into these actual corrections, because for us it was like, it's just as simple as a circumcision. And I was like, whoa, stop.
Yes.
Slam the brakes. Like, how can that be humanly possible? And it's like, well, we see these all the time. Like, we see 200 cases a week in our hospital. I'm like,
there's no way.
There's no way.
Statistically, there's no way.
Yes. So I think too, like what we'll provide as well is we'll have like a downloadable source that will be like some questions to ask your surgeons, like if you're going through this, because that was one thing that was super helpful, like in the groups, is seeing like some questions to ask. And you're right. Like if they're getting defensive, that's a red flag. And you want someone that is well-versed in your son's or, anybody else's condition that's dealing with a different condition. You want the surgeon that's the most well-versed, that sees this all the time, that does these repairs all the time, versus like, oh yeah, I do these like once a year. I'm like, no thanks.
Right.
Like,
I don't think any of them are up front.
No.
And I don't mean this meanly, but essentially the lower level local pediatric urologists, in my experiences, they haven't been very upfront with how many cases they do, all the time. And then when you start really pushing for, okay, but realistically, how many do you do? Their statistics can't support 200 patients a week, but they boast it. And then when you ask that, they're like, with the circumcisions, you're like, okay, great. So now we're adding in circumcisions, which are not the same as hypospadias. So we had a hard time even filtering what statistics that were being thrown at us were accurate.
Yeah.
Because they're like, it's easy. We do this all the time. But now it turns out our original surgeon maybe does 200 in a year.
Yeah.
Now that I've dug into his entire life and I know everything about his career, but he boasted it as, do this all the time, like portraying it was 200 in a week.
Yeah.
And it's sad because that's not the case.
And that's not fair to the parents or the kids. It's not fair to anybody. Like, just be upfront and honest. Like, I'm in healthcare, but like, if I don't feel confident treating a patient that comes into my office, like, they need to go to somewhere else where that provider can help them. And, you have to, as a physician, you have to be okay with like knowing and understanding that, because it's not about me and my reputation and my ego. It's about that person that comes in front of you that is looking for what you have to provide, and they want to be better.
Yep.
Or they want it. So get them to where they need to be.
Exactly. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but we did, where the success of the surgery is the bar is pretty low.
Yeah.
Right. So the success is that they can urinate, essentially.
Right.
And I'm like,
but then
he could urinate before surgery. Like, so then we're good, right?
Yeah.
By that definition. So we had a hard time with surgeons gauging their success as well, because we're looking at long-term function, adult function. And that is probably our biggest battle right now, is just the curvature, because it's tough to figure out exactly what that causes until they're in there. We do, plan A, B, and C now. But I feel like a lot of surgeons get them to the point of urination semi near the tip of the penis, and they're like, cool, we're good.
Yeah.
But they don't think about like the impact of, okay, is there tremendous scarring? That's, traumatizing for a boy in the locker room. I mean, it is. It's traumatizing going into an adulthood and your erection doesn't look like it should, and I don't think people take that or doctors take that into consideration all the time. And it's considered a success because technically speaking it is.
Yeah.
But functionally for total wellness, it's not. And so that was hard for us to understand that, okay, now we could have complications into adulthood. Hopefully we don't, fingers crossed, everything's fine. But that piece wasn't we weren't very well educated on that. And the threshold for success for that is not great. I feel like the bar is on the floor for that.
And it shouldn't. Like, we're parents making these decisions for our young children a lot of times. And the way we're making these decisions is for functionality, for urination, but also for the aftermath of like what it's going to be like as they grow up and they're in the locker room and they are dating and they get married. And all the goal is all of these things would be functional in a healthy, happy way.
Right. Exactly. But it's not like that's a priority. And it should be. Which was most concerning. Well, not most. There's a lot of things that were in the forefront. But it's like, okay, are we not looking 15 years, just 15 years, just into teenage? I mean, we're not looking at that. And how that could the implications it could have on his mental health and his relationships and social life. Like, that's huge for a parent. I want him to leave. I want him to leave my house. I love him. But that's my goal as a parent, is that you do whatever you want to do, whatever that is. And I don't think a lot of doctors consider that. I just don't think that foreshadowing is there. It's unfortunate.
It seems like you felt the same way, but I know that once we got to talking to specialists and not just our local urologists, that's when I was like, okay, they do get it. This is what they do. This is all they do. This is their specialty. They care how my child looks when he's 16 years old, 18 years old, 25 years old. They don't want to see him again in 10 years from now.
Right.
But we didn't get that vibe.
Yep. And that's
originally
part of how we made the decision of who, out of all these world-renowned specialists who we're going with, is just because that care was there. He genuinely cares how my son's going to turn out for the rest of his life. And he explained, this could happen, but we're doing this in surgery to help make sure it, all of those things were explained. Where, like you said, I don't think the local urologist even know that that's out there,
Well, they have to be a little bit more of a jack of all trades, for lack of a better term, than a specialist does, that have people fly to them specifically for that one thing. You had mentioned, I think, that you had narrowed it down to 3. Do you remember what 3 surgery centers you had narrowed it down to, all of them?
Yes. So Snodgrass Clinic, CHOP in Philly, and then Boston Children's in Boston.
Cool.
And so heavy hitters in the community.
I was like, I think we should name drop them. Like, if you don't want to share who you pick, that's totally fine. But I think we should drop the top 3, because I think that will help parents too, to just also be like, where do I start? And it's like, you start at the heavy hitters. Like, you start at the people that specialize in this stuff, and you go there and you figure out the logistics later if you're able to.
So we're going with Dr. Zayance at CHOP. He and Dr. Long, I believe, is his partner. I grilled everybody. It was between him and Snodgrass Clinic, but just given Aiden's case and some of the differencing in techniques and research that we've done, we did decide to go with Zayance. I also didn't realize how, in the urology specialist world, they're a little petty against each other,
I know.
Which is interesting to hear at a doctor's appointment. So that was something that, just being frank, was off-putting at the Snodgrass Clinic, was that there was a lot of hate on other doctors, and they go to the same conferences and they talk at the same things. And it was like, I'm just trying to get help for my kid.
I knew this from watching some of the trainings. Like, so when I found out that our son had hypospadias, we had to wait, I think, like 6 weeks or something to get into the local pediatric urologist. So I'm just like deep diving down the rabbit hole, right? And I'm finding like trainings for pediatric urologist surgeons on YouTube, and like training like audio, and you hear it on there, and I was like, well, this is
Everywhere.
fun. This is great.
Everywhere. So I learned that. I didn't know that that was a piece of it.
Yeah.
But we did ultimately decide shop, and it's like what you said. We just made the appointment.
Yeah.
We're figuring out the details after the fact. We'll have to be there, I think, 2 weeks to do the supportive aftercare, all the wound dressings, all of those things.
Yeah.
And then I forget what the follow-up schedule is, but it's much more intensive than our previous plans, which I liked.
Yeah.
The other, good thing for us is that I am from that area originally. I'm from New Jersey. So if we had these crazy anythings, we do have family in the area.
Great.
But, just that's where we felt most comfortable.
Yeah.
We're hoping that we are on the cancellation list. We're hoping that somebody's like, and backs out.
Yeah.
So that way we can get in before December, because we're just, waiting for him to not be healing, and we're starting all over. So it's this weird state of, we know something's wrong, we can't fix it. And as a parent, you're like chomping at the bit just to fix it. And we can't.
Yeah.
So
there is definitely a looming, dark cloud, for lack of better terms, of it's coming. You've been through it before, so you're prepping, but until you get there, you don't know the ins and outs. And
right. Yeah. And this is going to be more extensive. The initial surgery, I think, is going to be between 4 and 4.5 hours is what they're thinking.
Yeah.
But it's good because we're laying all the framework fresh. All of the things that we're like, will that hold up in 20 years?
Yeah.
We're not dealing with it.
So what's their plan? Are they going to re-release the chordee and then make the there's multiple stages I'm sure they're doing, make the canal, and then
so they're releasing the chordee. The initial stage, they're focusing on straightening first, which with all 3 of them, that was the initial stage, was we need that framework. The assumption is that, and this is where it differed a little bit, Snodgrass Clinic felt that the curvature was more heavily into the erectile tissue. And then Boston and CHOP felt that it was, I guess there's a sheath over it, and I could be using wrong terms. They felt that it was more the sheath that needs to be straightened, just based on the operative notes from the previous surgeon.
Sure.
We don't know, obviously, until they get in there. Right. So plan 1 is that they will be taking a skin graft from the inguinal crease if they don't have enough on the foreskin, to then straighten the sheath. If it is erectile tissue, of course, they'll deal with that. How they see fix, that's a different type of tissue. It's much tougher. It's a lot more involved. So there are plan A, B, and C for the erectile tissue, but we're just hoping it's not, and that it is just the sheath. Either way, we're prepared. But so they'll be straightening that and then laying all of the groundwork for it to be tubularized. From our understanding, they'll be cutting wherever the highest degree of curvature is, which we're thinking is low to mid shaft. They'll cut there for the urethra, and then that's where his urethral opening will be until stage 2. So we might end up back with pinoscrotal. We might end up with mid shaft. There's still, and this is another piece I forgot to mention, but there's still a weird, did he have true pinoscrotal? Did he have more of a mid-shaft hypospadias? Because when they initially released the chordee, his urethral opening, I guess, moved up.
Okay.
Some doctors say, some not. So that's a weird piece. It doesn't really matter at this point. But we thought that was interesting. So they'll see where they need to make the cut and then start from that point up, rebuilding. He'll also have some framework laid. His scrotum has webbing now from the scarring. And so not that that's the biggest hindrance, but it could be, from my understanding. The way that just continues to scar and tighten could cause discomfort later in life. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that. And so that'll be stage 1, is just straightening and laying framework. And then stage 2 will be tubularizing what is laid. And they might need a buccal graft. They might not. It just,
it'll depend on when they get in there.
what the skin looks like when they get in there. So we're prepared for all options.
Yeah.
Stage 2 is tubularizing as far up as they feel comfortable and that the tissue looks good. So we might end up, right below the tip. We might end up mid shaft, but they're being very, very conservative with where we're going to take it to avoid the potential complication of a fistula.
Yeah.
And then stage 3 would be tubularizing all the way up, given that everything has healed.
Yeah.
And I guess zipping him up, as they say.
Yeah.
And then creating the proper spacing for the tip.
Yeah.
I've learned that there's a certain measurement that it needs to be.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so then that'll be part of that stage, is just the revision to make things look pretty. And then hopefully that'll be it.
Yeah.
There's the potential for the stage 4 that if he doesn't feel like he can do the make pretty and have good wound healing, that will then have a 4th cosmetic procedure.
Yeah.
But it's just, it just all depends on how he heals, what the tissue looks like. So we're ready.
Yeah.
There's a lot. There's a lot that's about to happen that he doesn't know.
Yeah.
But it's all for him to be functioning and fully functioning and quote unquote normal into adulthood.
Sure. So. How is he handling all that? Because he's 2.5, right?
So he, we really don't know if it's because he's our first kid, if it's just he's a boy, or it's because there's such an emphasis on his penis, but he's a penis obsessed child.
He's a boy.
Okay, cool. Love that. So he knows that we go to the doctor and the doctor is checking you and the doctor's going to fix you. And we are very open with him even now.
Yeah.
I never want him to feel like we hid something from him going into teenage years or adulthood. So, I mean, my in-laws know, everybody knows, everybody in his care circle, they're here to just support him.
Yeah.
And so we're potty training, and he knows that when daddy pees, daddy's goes straight out, like his urine stream comes straight. Aiden's is a little bit more tucked back just because of the curvature. So we're doing potty train sitting rather than standing. So he knows there's differences. We're celebrating the differences. So he thinks it's the best thing in the entire world, that he gets to sit down. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Obviously that won't be cool at some point. So we'll shift that when we have to. But he knows enough for a 2-year-old. He definitely knows that we have doctor's appointments and he gets checked out. But we're a very medically happy family, so we are not the doom and gloom family medically. And so when he goes to the doctor, he's like, "Hey, doctor man, what are we doing? There's people to play with." And so even at the hospital, of course, they have those minutes of someone's taking me for mom. But we've talked about a little bit of sedation beforehand to help ease that, which we've done in the past, which is 10 out of 10. Love that. But he goes into it just knowing that mom and dad are here. They're not leaving. These doctors are here to help. And so he has a pretty good outlook on things. He's not scared when we go to the doctor because we've unfortunately had to normalize it so much. But he handles it well for a 2.5-year-old. Now, as we get going, I'm sure now he's going to be more aware of the pain with this time around. And so we'll definitely be more, not that we weren't on top of it, but I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive with pushing to have backup meds. Just because at some point we will be back out of state, and I don't want my kid in pain. I don't want to have to call the local urologist.
No. And once the pain gets away from you, it's hard to catch back up to it. And we're very very a holistic family. But when we were going through this, that's one thing we did not mess around with. It was he's taking the pain meds, he's taking them on his routine, and we did travel and come home, and that we even extended it an extra day to that we could comfortably be home before weaning him off. And I was just I know it's not the the philosophies and the theories, but listen, this is your child. Our son was young, he couldn't talk, he couldn't tell us he was in pain, and so we're not messing around. We're just making them as comfortable as possible, and we'll deal with the other stuff later.
Good for you. But that's the decisions you have to make as the parent. I mean, do you want your kid writhing in pain? No. So I'm going to take care of it.
Yeah. 100%.
So
100%.
that's going to be our biggest goal going into this, is making sure that pain control is top notch, just because he is so aware and he is so proud of his stuff. So that's going to be interesting. And then distraction, because being an all boys boy, not that they have to be super, they're allowed to run and do all those things after they heal, but he's a no limits kid. I don't know. I'm assuming your boys are too. That that just hurt and he's still going to do it again.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, stop. So,
especially our youngest who went through this, because
we know
it
a little
literally
bit about
was like 6 months. He wasn't army crawling. The day we show up to our Airbnb before his procedure, he starts army crawling. I'm like, cool.
Perfect.
This is great. He's going to be pulling his wounds literally on the floor. And they're like, it's fine. And I'm like, I know you think it's fine, but I don't know if I'm ready for all of this.
Drag it across the floor. It'll be fine.
Second time, he's 12 months. He literally starts walking like as soon as we get home, right after catheter and all. I'm like, cool, okay, let's not let this thing come out. And then the last one was 18 months, and he was just wild. Like at that point, he's just like climbing, crawling.
Feral.
There's no more Foley cath. There's just the other catheter, and he's pulling it out. And I'm
that thing didn't stand a chance.
No, ours never did. Our cat, no, they were.
Yeah.
He got to him, and I was like, I can't. I mean, and it's at night. I mean, I can't. But ours did the same thing. The second surgery, he was 14 or 15 months and started walking. And we were like, wonderful. Yes, this is what we need right now. And he wasn't just a gentle walker, which I'm sure yours wasn't either. He's like, look how fast I can go right now. And like, boom, face plant. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're going to bust all of this. Like, I'm waiting for blood, and thank God that didn't happen.
It's amazing how resilient they are.
It's scary how resilient they are. So we'll be getting lots of extra toys. Christmas will come early for stationary toys. But that, I think, is just going to be our hardest part, is those initial week to 2 weeks of healing. Because one, it's so critical, but two, it's horrible. You know.
I know. I get it. A whole different breed.
There's something.
So talking to you at this part of your journey, you seem so positive, and like you guys have had a really good way of keeping a positive light on everything that you've gone through. And that's really I admire that about you. And I appreciate your vulnerability in talking about these things and having such a good attitude about it, even though you've had these struggles. During your experience, was there anything that you feel like could have helped you earlier on that we haven't touched on? Is there any resources or anything that would have been a big benefit to you throughout this process?
Sure. So definitely what you had touched on earlier, Joanna, having a kind of like the 10 most important questions that you need to ask, because you think you're asking the right things. I work in geriatrics in the medical field, but I mean, things work the same, right? So I'm thinking I'm asking good questions based on wound healing, all of these things, but I really wasn't. And so that would have been a tremendous help from other parents, just knowing, hey, this is, this happened. Definitely make sure you ask your surgeon X, Y, and Z. Know the support groups on Facebook and all of those were available sooner. I should have known that they were Facebook groups, because there's a Facebook group for everything. But I think we were just so happy that he's home and he's okay, that we didn't look for that kind of support when we should have. And then that led us obviously to not ask the right questions, know that there's these significant complications, all of those things. And then I think having things like these podcasts where parents can really just lay it all out, because there's not really a forum for you. And I'm not even trying to bash surgeons, but just there's not a forum to say this was done wrong. Be cautious of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And so having that, whether it's in a document, like a welcome to Hypospadias video that they show you at the hospital. I don't know.
Yeah.
They teach you CPR before you leave the NICU. I feel like they should have taught us a little bit more about his condition when you leave.
Yeah.
Because yes, he's not going home with oxygen, and we need to learn how to use the oxygen tank, but he's going home with a complication. And I just don't think the education was there. So more education for parents in those initial days, the support groups, and then the questions. Those would be my top 3 things that I think would have made this journey easier on us and easier on him.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel very similar to you about like almost like the post-op or like send home stuff, because like the nitty-gritty was given, right? And they checked it off. They checked it off their list. But then I'm, on Google at 2 a.m. like, why is my kid angry, upset, frustrated? Oh, it's because he's coming off the anesthesia, and the anesthesia is getting out of his body. That can take several days, and he could act like this for up to like 2 weeks. And I was like, no one told me. No one prepared me for this. I literally was like, why? Why is he so angry? Why is he trying to hurt himself? Like, this isn't my kid. Did I mess up by putting him under anesthesia and letting this happen? And then as the days went on, like that resolved, and I was very thankful for that. But a little heads up would have been super nice.
Yep.
So I didn't spiral.
Especially when, and at healthcare, I don't know how you feel about this, but healthcare preaches support for moms postpartum. Do they actually do it? So when you're navigating something like that within that first year, and you're up at 2 a.m. thinking, I'm a bad mom because my kid is hurting, or I made a bad decision, it's crippling. And that is something that we dealt with. And that is something that it's just, you don't ever get that out of the back of your head. The guilt of, I wish I knew more. I wish I did more. I wish, all of these things. And I don't think I'll ever get that out of my head. Of course, we know more now.
Yeah.
But it's something that could have been prevented with education. It could have been prevented with support.
Yeah.
But we just chose as a family that we're not going to go there. My husband is the biggest one on when I start going there, because obviously all of these appointments, you're like, I should have known, I should have done this.
Yeah.
And I was the one taking him to the appointments because my husband had to work.
Yeah.
And I had the more flexible schedule. And so he's been the biggest part of, we're not going there. Like, we made the decision that we had to make with the information that we had.
Yeah.
Now we're making a different decision because we have it. So that's definitely helped us be more positive, but you're spot on that there were those scary 2 a.m. Why is he doing this? Because we did the pain meds. We did, the bladder spasms. Everything's okay, but he's not okay.
Right.
And nothing tells you why. So you're like, I'm a horrible mother.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have had him do this.
Yeah.
But you're doing the best with what you've got, really.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, 100%. So hopefully like things like this bring some more awareness to other parents that are earlier in their journey, and they can hopefully gain some information from like all the great things that you shared today too, which will be very helpful. I definitely appreciate it. And if there's any other words that you didn't get to say, spill them.
I think I'm good. I appreciate you guys for being so open to hear all of this, and for having it be that true no judgment zone, that whatever path you took is the path that you took for your child.
For sure.
Because there's parents who don't choose surgery, and that's okay.
Totally fine.
There's parents who stick by their decision with that one surgeon for 8 years, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's just important for people to know that there's resources out there. So I do thank you both for having that demeanor that it's okay not to accept this type of support, but just it's here if you need it.
Yeah.
Which is big.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you for
absolutely. And good luck in this pregnancy and all of the future with Aiden. And we definitely, of course, hope like everything goes as smooth as possible and that you guys get to the other side of this.
Thanks. I appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy your rough and tumble boys.
Yes, we will. I appreciate it. Cool. Well, we'll chat later. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks so much.
You have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.